I'm here with Larry Green of Cain International. Larry's integrally involved in the development of One Beverly Hills. Well-known developer, agent, consultant, and David Reuben with the Century Plaza. And so we're going to talk about mixed use and what kind of mixed use is coming to LA. And so we'll just get started. And what I want to do is kind of set the terms a little bit, because obviously mixed use is not a new term. There's been mixed use projects going on in LA for a long time. But I think what these folks are here to talk about from their points of view of their projects and their experience is it really is something different. And a new way of looking at mixed use, and certainly a new way of taking it upscale. And so I just kind of wanted to start by, first, could you give us your take on what does mixed use mean to you in terms of your project, Larry?
Okay. Shh, folks, please. Thank you. Well, look, for us, it's about placemaking. And we're really blessed that we're talking about at One Beverly Hills, a site that's 17 and a half acres. You know, it sits right at the heart of Wilshire and Santa Monica. And it has a lot of different elements to it that allow us to sort of curate an experience that promotes the overall campus. And so with the Waldorf, the Beverly Hilton, and then Amman coming along with a bunch of luxury retail and dining, all connected with a 10-acre botanical garden, we're able to really create community. And that's something we've been talking a lot about, which is the power of community and like-minded individuals coming into a place to live, where they'll also be able to go and dine and shop and recreate and have these incredible experiences, amongst friends and family that are all sort of like-minded. So for us, mixed use really means placemaking, creating community, and those two things drive sort of valuations in a big way if you can do it right.
Thank you. And I'm going to go to David next and then swing back to Hana for sort of a different view. But David, you want to just give us the overview on your project?
Yeah, of course. I thought this was karaoke. I'm completely underprepared for this. I think we can redefine how the phrase mixed use is used in Los Angeles. I think for many years, people would refer to schemes as mixed use if it was an office building or a multifamily building with a restaurant or a retail store underneath it. I think what Larry and I are trying to sell is a lifestyle that's all-encompassing. So to bring it back to Century Plaza, those of you that aren't familiar, we're a 400-key, newly redesigned Fairmont with 63 rental condos. We're two 44-story towers with about 250 apartments between the two of them. We are bringing an all-star lineup of restaurants. Some have been announced. We're doing a Milos, a Sushi Naz, and a Q. Some I can announce today. We're doing a Wally's Wine Bar, a La Specialità from Milan, and a Roadside Tacos. It's a very cool concept that we're familiar with from Las Vegas. And then the third thing is we've blended in wellness. So we announced a new longevity clinic with Tony Robbins, Sam Nazarian, and Peter Diamandis at the lead called Fountain Life, that's going to provide kind of the differential between the apex of hospitality and food and beverage and the apex of hospitality and wellness. And the last point I'd make is Century City is an incredibly strong office market, has one of the better performing Westfields in California across the road, highly walkable, very safe, and very well positioned to service other neighborhoods in Los Angeles. In effect, it's the new downtown as far as I'm concerned, and therefore it needs high-rise living to support the residential component.
Got it. Now let's turn to Hana. And Hana, from your perspective, and I know you've given a lot of thought to the marketing and branding, but could you tell us about how are these unique selling propositions, these two projects, and really the sort of concepts overall, and again, separating out this sort of mixed use from what has been that standard mixed use?
Like David and Larry mentioned, mixed use isn't really new in LA, but mixed use residential living, what is new is, residents in LA are finding this new sense of appreciation and really embodying, as David mentioned, the lifestyle of what it means to live in a mixed-use building. And what used to be before, if you think about a condo tower, it was, what are some of the amenities I get inside of my home? What are some of the amenities I get in the building? You have your swimming pool, your gym, the services, all of that. But now it's a much more expanded lifestyle, accompaniments where people want to experience mixed use and kind of this urban high density living in a way where I can step outside of my building and still have convenient access to the things that I want to do, whether it's, the longevity clinic, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's somewhere, a coffee or whatever I want to do where I don't have to get in my car and drive across the way to get there. And so mixed use, the new concept of mixed use in LA is the sense of appreciation that there is this community that is built in its own ecosystem that's just so much more than what you get in your house or in your condo and in the building.
And just to give a quick we can quantify it a little bit. David, how many restaurants at the Century Plaza now, and how many will you have at build out?
Well, I just announced the 7 that are done. We have 2 spaces left. One is a space that my brother and I may activate ourselves with one of our existing family concepts. And the other is a space that's currently being negotiated by one of my excellent restaurant brokers over here, but I can't announce because the lease isn't inked. But we'll give you the exclusive when we do.
Okay, and you said 9 at a minimum.
Yes, at
you
a
can
minimum.
walk out of the tenants can walk out, or the
Pardon
owners.
me?
The owners of the condos can walk out and choose from 9 restaurants.
I mean, look, to give you a colloquial story, I moved from a big house in Beverly Hills to live at Century Plaza. I didn't realize I'd be living there. I handpicked the restaurants I thought would best service people that live the lifestyle I live. Now I'm living it. It's much easier to sell it, and it's a phenomenal lineup, especially where we're bringing restaurants that have succeeded elsewhere and throwing them into the mix at Century Plaza.
Another term Hana just brought up that I think we could maybe define a little better is density. And a lot of politicians and professors and architects talk about density in LA, and they talk about apartments over near a train station. This is something different. What is density on this new mixed use? What does it look like? What does it feel like?
Happy to take that one.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead?
I think what's really important that we forget, and I think developers you guys have this amazing vision of what you want your project to be and what the lifestyle components are. I think density doesn't necessarily mean a lot. It just means you need to activate a vibrant community building, with people that live there full time. And it's not just about, the part-time pied-à-terre owners or the investors. Like, that doesn't make a community. High density really means creating spaces where people actually want to be and call it their primary residence. I think that's the important thing about density. It's not just more is better.
And we happen to have, David has quite a few units, Larry, fewer. And, how does it play out at scale, or what are the differences?
Look, for us, we have a lot of density. We have more density than probably anything in Beverly Hills, but we're connected with a 10-acre botanical garden. And so we were able to sort of create the landscape and the platform that allowed us to sort of put all the things that you really don't want to see underground. So we've got, parking underground, we've got central plants, loading docks, all the sort of infrastructure sort of buried underground, and that allowed us to create a canvas that's, a beautiful botanical garden, designed by Mark Rios, and that'll have, 35 tenant spaces that'll be food and beverage and retail. We have an Aman Club that also is sort of tucked within the podium structure, which is going to be a sort of flagship Aman Club. That'll include jazz clubs, screening room, health and wellness facilities. And then you combine that with what we have at the Beverly Hilton, which is 1,900-seat ballroom, meeting rooms, all kinds of entertainment options. That's creating density, but it's done in a way that is going to be incredibly elegant and fitting of the Beverly Hills lifestyle. And so you got to sort of look at, I think each market and then do the best you can that meets those market needs. And that's really sort of our focus.
And David, let's talk about the scale and density of your place. How many units? Just give us a little picture.
Well, stop showing off. We don't have botanical gardens. Plenty of other stuff. I think density is a weird term to be discussing, and I'll tell you why. It depends where density is applied. I mean, we're in Century City. It's a densely built out neighborhood with a thriving office market, as you're aware, 1800 Avenue of the Stars, the JP Morgan campus where CAA is going to be reimagined. You have the Anderson Tower, so the density's there. We're a 6-acre campus, plenty of green spaces. We have 400,000 feet of residential that approximately, they don't like it when I throw out specific numbers, but somewhere around there, with everything from 917 square foot one beds to 10,800 square foot wraparound penthouses with infinity pools. And I think, in such a dense office market, it's correct and appropriate for us to be creating more density in the asset classes that are underserviced, which are wellness, residential condos, hotel, and anything else I just forgot to mention. And so, I think density is an appropriate term where we feel density is over applied. We're in a dense neighborhood and we're adding the right asset classes to the mix to create a real community.
Great. And another term now, and this came up, we talked earlier. Let's talk about the bubble. And at one point, David mentioned, people want to go live in their bubble and have, the restaurants right there and have a sense of security and have what they need right there. And I think David's onto something there. I have often heard the term bubble used in a disparaging way. I've talked to many parents who say, I don't want my children to grow up in a bubble. I want them to have different experiences. But I think there's something else going on here. And let's talk about that. David, give us your view of the bubble.
So look, there was a Forbes article in 2021 that we often refer to about LA, where the tagline was, nobody drives in LA, right? And I think the point they were referring to, nobody walks in LA. Thanks, Hana. That's why Hana's so good at what she does. Nobody walks in LA. And I think they were onto something in a sense, that we create these bubbles for ourselves, from our houses or our apartments to our office to the restaurants we like, in a car, and you kind of build your own world inside LA. I think the word bubble can be reimagined when it comes to mixed-use developments like Larry's and like mine, and like some of the other phenomenal mixed-use developments that we're now seeing come up, which is, here's a bubble of your own. Walkability, security, the restaurants you want to eat at, the spaces you want to utilize, the facilities you require. And so, does nobody walk in LA? I mean, at Larry's scheme, at our scheme, you can walk to a tremendous array of amenities, and you got a Westfield Mall across the road for anything we can't provide you with. And I think so that might be a colloquial way of redefining what the bubble means for the type of residences and residents that we're trying to attract.
Larry, is your bubble a good bubble?
We love the bubble. Beverly Hills, we love our bubble. Beverly Hills we think is probably the best bubble on the planet. It's all about sort of that sense of safety, security, and amenities that you have, all in a very walkable environment. We're taking that again to the next level when we're redeveloping with Amman and creating the Amman lifestyle. But the bubble in Beverly Hills is outstanding. It is an incredibly walkable community. You can work, shop, recreate, all within walking distance, and that's something that's very powerful. It's one of the reasons that people really love living in Beverly Hills, is that level of convenience and that safety and security that they feel. And I know that the city really works hard to sort of create that. And we have the best police, we have the best fire. And we're proud of it. It takes a lot of work to do that, but we've done it, and we do it in a way that really just uplifts the community. So for us, it's important, and I think with One Beverly Hills, we sort of take that then to the next level.
And I will tell you, I was last night. I went over to dinner on Beverly, so I was walking over there, and the light at Wilshire and Beverly was out. Okay, and Beverly Hills had traffic officers there.
Right.
And they were actually asking you as you approached the corner, which way do you want to cross? And then they would go ahead and direct the traffic that way. And so, there is high level of service. With all that said, I think, still in all, I think people have other points about the bubble. And I know, Hana, you have some different views. Give us your thoughts on it.
I think in LA, when people talk about this is my bubble or in my bubble, it was never a physical kind of proximate area bubble. It was the bubble that we created with, our friends that all live in different parts of LA, all the different restaurants we like to go to, the different places we, go to hang out. But now we are creating an actual physical bubble, like at Century Plaza, like at One Beverly Hills, where everything within the bubble that used to be sprawled all over LA is now in one place, and it becomes a real suburban bubble, but in an urban environment.
Yeah, I would think, I really haven't heard, bubble is sort of a negative context, but when you talk about it as community, right, and which is really what we're talking about, is creating communities, people love community, right? And so if you make maybe the mental transition from going from you're in a bubble to this is my community and this is where I live and work and shop and play, and it's all walkable and it's all right there, I think it's probably a different context. People, I think, like
and
community.
If I can add to that, and I love that you stole my bit, Larry. The sense of community, I think we really see it in a different way, kind of the post-COVID effect, where community, I think before COVID, it was like, this is my neighborhood. Beverly Hills is the city I live in, this is my community. But post-COVID, there is this true sense of people desiring connection and real community that isn't just about the city that they live in. This community of, and you mentioned, like-minded people, like-minded families, where you can really band together and do things that you enjoy. And create a true sense of community that is all kind of existing in one place.
So are you concerned about this? Are there concerns about this trend of the new bubble? And if so, what would you do to address them?
Well,
Again, for us, it's about creating community. So is there concerns about creating community? No. I think that what you're seeing is, look, today, I live out in Malibu, which is great. It's one of the top places in the planet to live. It's wonderful. I have very little community out in Malibu, right? It's a very isolated sort of form of living. When I'm in Beverly Hills, I've been, spending a lot of time in Beverly Hills, I really feel the power of community. I feel that when I walk down the street, I run into people that I just saw at a work event or that I just saw at a restaurant or whatever. And you feel that, and that's an incredible feeling. And so, we're going to move to Beverly Hills because when you think about the walkability and sort of that lifestyle, it's just better. I mean, it really is. I mean, if you can combine it with nature and outdoors and all the things that we all like to do in California, recreation, but do it in an intimate way where you can see your neighbors and you can sort of interact with people, I think, there's an energy with that. And so for us, creating communities is sort of the way to go, and I hope that it continues.
I think I can add to the point about community is excellent. I think also we have to be realistic about what the changing requirements in terms of lifestyle are in Los Angeles, at least currently in the post-COVID environment. And I think we need schemes that will address those concerns. And some of those concerns are immediately addressed by schemes such as ours. I think safety is a big one, and security. I think we all feel that wherever we live, okay? I think traffic is another, like the ability to walk is another concern, especially with the Olympics, the World Cup, and various other, things. And I think the third thing is, the way people live their lives. More transient, move around a lot, may not have the time to maintain large homes that require landscaping and gardeners and security and all of that stuff. And I think, if you don't directly attack what the changing requirements are for the city, then you're not really going to be able to maintain its vibrancy. And so I think there's room for every type of project, but I think schemes like Larry's and schemes like mine are an incredibly important component of making LA an attractive city to live in.
I want to add, and I hope you guys don't hate me for saying this, but just, food for thought. You guys are creating these communities, and to be very honest about it, very expensive communities for the affluent, wealthy local resident. So, when we're talking about this concept of creating community and bringing together like-minded people, it's like, okay, we have this cool thing that's happening here, but it's going to cost you $25 million for a 2-bedroom condo, and if you can't pay to play, you're not welcome in our community. That is a real thing, I think, that we have to think about, and, maybe we don't want to talk about it because it's a hard discussion and it doesn't necessarily put your project in the best light, but it's a real thing, right? So there are obviously restaurants and amenities and things that people that don't have a $25 million condo can come and experience and be a part of the community momentarily. But at the end of the day, we talk about building true community. We are we're in Los Angeles, this spectrum of, I don't want to get into, the affordable housing and homelessness and all of that, but to create true community that makes a real difference, it's, how are we thinking about those people that can afford the Amman residence?
Well, I think there's something else, and I think we all have an obligation on. I remember. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I would think that what David and I are doing is sort of an evolution of things that we've been seeing in and around Los Angeles for some time. If you look at Playa Vista, for instance, there's a community in Playa Vista. It's not, billionaires moving into Playa Vista, but it's doing an important function, which is creating community for people at that price level. And so, at all price levels, the desires are the same. To be around people that you want to hang out with, to be able to go grab a coffee, to be able to get to work easily. And so you can create community at a variety of different price points. In many ways, what Dave and I are doing is sort of, responding to what we're seeing happening all around Los Angeles in little different pockets, but we're now taking it maybe for the first time to this sort of upper echelon level. And we think those people want what everybody else has sort of been wanting, which is that community.
And I'll just add to that on Hannah's point about affordable housing and Larry's point about price points, compared to some of the Beverly Hills schemes, we are affordable housing at excellent price points. If anyone would like to come and look at the residences.
It's about value. It's about creating value for people, right?
We can have this conversation offline, Larry.
And there are other ways to get out of your bubble. So I remember doing a story about a private school up in the valley, and the parents were concerned about their children growing up in a bubble where they only dealt with people of their own socioeconomic status. And so they decided to go and have like a partnership with the Para Los Niños after-school program on Skid Row. And they took their kids down there once a quarter, however often. And if we're worried about that aspect of the bubble, we have to take that on ourselves. And
it's about your 2-year-old being able to ride his bike around the street. I mean, I have a 2-year-old when I grew up, you were allowed to ride your bike around the street at 6 or 7 as long as you didn't leave a couple of blocks. I don't know how comfortable I am with my kid living that lifestyle. I know that within the confines of our secure communities, we can offer parents that freedom, and until the city adapts to address the current environment, it just highlights why these sort of communities require development. And I encourage as many of them as possible, because I think the absorption rate will pick up in a better interest rate environment, but also as we start to attract people back to LA rather than scare them away. And that's a politics discussion. So as an Englishman, I'll remove myself from the conversation.
And then, now we're getting to, and I think it's the subtext of a lot of this has been public safety, city services, and what's going on, in the region. And we have some interesting contrast here. You're dealing mostly with Beverly Hills.
That's correct. Yeah.
You're dealing with the city of Los Angeles. But let me ask you, I know you've dealt with the city of Los Angeles. You were on the Century City Westfield.
Correct.
And so plenty of experience. So could you compare and contrast? Let's start with just the nuts and bolts and fundamentals of development. How do the two compare?
Yeah.
Well, it is different. Beverly Hills is a red carpet treatment, and they're very focused, and they have the ability to service, the residents and sort of those doing business there in an exceptional way. It doesn't mean it's not hard, but it's focused. You get the attention. You can have access to the mayor and city manager and the staff on a regular basis. The standards are high, right? And people really are focused on making sure that you deliver quality and you're continuing to lift things up. Prior to joining Cain, I was head of development for Westfield. I did a lot of stuff in the city of LA. City of LA is just harder. It just takes longer. There's more constituents. There's less ability to sort of have access at City Hall. There's a lot of things going on in LA at any one point in time. Things generally take many, many years. You have to sort of have deep pockets and the ability to sort of navigate through that. And then once you get through it, the pluses are you don't have to worry about competition as much. Because it is so hard and challenging, you're able to sort of be insulated. There's not going to be sort of another high-rise project, residential project in Century City anytime soon. There will be, and because it makes sense to be developed there, but it'll take time for that to happen. And so I think those are the things. You probably, in Beverly Hills, it's more of a red carpet experience. LA, it's a lot tougher, but if you can pound your way through it, you can sort of be insulated and you can reap the rewards of
should you
making it
have
through.
to pound your way through it?
No, you shouldn't have to pound your way through it. Look, it's development in general has gotten way too hard. There's too much bureaucracy. It's too intense. We have to remove some of the red tape. In LA, they have a thing called the neighborhood councils, which is something that just makes it even harder, unnecessarily so. People think being a developer is easy and that you just think of ideas and you go out and you just invest capital and the returns are just automatic. For those that are on this stage, we know that that's not the case. And it's a hard thing to be a developer. We really do need the support of the cities to sort of help clear the obstacles so that we can come in behind and have success. And that success is creating community, right? Which is something the cities need. So that's my...
Given that we are still awaiting some entitlements, on the advice of my counsel, I will exercise my right to the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution and not self-incriminate myself. But we all like cities that run more efficiently, and there's always room for improvement.
And Hana, you've worked across several jurisdictions, and I'm sure you have a sense of how various cities operate.
Look, I probably have never been in the weeds like you have, Larry, and not like you, David. But my experience of it, to keep it short and simple, it's more difficult than it has been easy or accessible. And I think that Beverly Hills gives you the red carpet because you're bringing this uber luxury project to the city. What about some of the affordable housing initiatives that developers are trying to push through it with more low-income apartments? Like, those are getting stuck, like those aren't actually happening. So I think it just depends, but I guess nothing worth doing is ever easy, so.
And has anybody dealt with any Southern California jurisdictions where it's not luxury, but it's not unduly difficult? Torrance or...
Well, I think it depends, like in cities outside of, call it Los Angeles proper, so whether it's in, Pomona or somewhere else like that, if you are building mid-market or below mid-market, low-income housing, it is much easier to push through because there are just more housing initiatives to bring homes like that to market to, service local residents that.
Look, I say, San Diego, for example, went out and they've done master planning for all kinds of districts within the county of San Diego, La Jolla, Mission Valley, where they've put urban plans in place. And so they're getting out in front of it, and they're giving developers density, they're creating the rules of engagement, they're creating the rules of the road, and developers are able to come in and move aggressively and quickly because the city sort of has done the heavy lift. All right, they've done the EIR studies, they have the zoning placement in hand, and now the developers know, okay, here's the rules, now I can go. And a lot of the heavy lift has been completed. In LA, they've tried that, but it's just a harder lift. They don't have the funds, that's an expensive endeavor for the cities to take on. And so, it's just been challenging for LA to sort of get there. But those cities that get out in front, do the EIRs, do the zoning, create the rules, there's capital and development expertise that'll come in behind that and make stuff happen. And you do see that up and down California, with more forward-leaning sort of cities.
And I know you're all quite well-spoken and diplomatic, and I know you all have reason to be diplomatic, and you're in business, and you have to deal with a lot of people. So, I'll point out that, the city of Los Angeles also, I think, has seen a third of its city council convicted on corruption in the last couple of years. There's some obvious problems that I think, probably feed into the difficulty. And I don't know that if that's very easy to quantify or very easy to talk about. But don't want to put too fine a point on it.
I had one councilman that said, well, we need to create rules so that developers can't give, payoffs to the city councilman. And I said, wait a minute. You should look at yourselves and create rules that you don't take payoffs from developers. It's not. It's not the developer's issue, really. It's really the council people's issue.
They ask you to save them from themselves. But I think we get a lot of that with the crime and homelessness now too, and I think that that's something that probably ought to be squarely addressed. And where if anybody would like to, where are we with that? I think a lot of the talk we've had about the bubble, and why should anyone have to apologize for wanting their family to feel safe, right?
I feel comfortable talking on this subject. I think, one of the wonderful things about LA and California in general, it has a lot of compassionate residents that tend to vote in favor of a more egalitarian society and so on without picking sides. I do think that when it comes down to local politics, we need to address the immediate needs of the city, as I've referenced before, and maybe not just stick to the team that we play on nationally all the time. And so I think without, reference anyone specifically, there may or may not be many of these people in the room that feel like roles like district attorney, where I'm given the understanding that there may be an upcoming election. As an Englishman, they don't keep me tuned into this stuff. There might be room for people to sort of cross away from where they feel nationally or in their hearts to address the immediate needs of the city in order to create a safer and happier climate for people that want to live here. And so I think, these things can be addressed at the local level and don't require reflection on your kind of national or ideological perspective, but more about what can I do for my community, my family, and my business that might make this city a more prosperous one.
And Hana, I know you're very circumspect about these sorts of things. Any thoughts about public safety and where we need to be, or where we are and where we need to be?
I think it's important, like, David mentioned, it starts in our own backyard to really make a difference. You can't look at this from a national level. It's really what can you do now, what can we do now to make a difference in the neighborhood and the community that you exist in. And I've always said, I think, with local policymakers, the interesting thing, and I think the hardest thing, is our local policymakers have a lot of really great ideas to make housing more efficient and bring, more homes to the market. But the plans don't always work when you don't really understand the business side of real estate, right? So the ideas are great, but it's how do you actually execute those things if, X, Y, and Z become additional obstacles, if these numbers don't pencil, right? The ideas are great, but like, who's actually thinking about the execution? And the people that set the rules know nothing about the business of real estate.
I think, and as long as people don't start eating their neighbors' cats here in LA, we might be, we're still on the right side of this discussion for now.
Larry, would you like to add anything?
Look, Beverly Hills is focused on safety and security. It's their number one focus. The investment in technology and infrastructure and cameras and supporting their chiefs and their workforce is like nothing I've ever seen. And so it's something that's constantly sort of number one on the agenda of the city council, is sort of keep lifting the bar and raising the bar. They rolled out a nurse practitioner program where instead of waiting for somebody to sort of have a heart attack and then send fire trucks there to sort of deal with that, where they can get out in front, and if you're having issues, you can call a nurse practitioner and they'll come to your house and they'll do a checkup on you and they'll prescribe if you need some help, and they can take care of it on the front end. I mean, there's not another city in the country doing that kind of level of service. So for us, we are blessed to be in Beverly Hills, and that they have that sense of focus. And that makes it easy for us to make a big investment into Beverly Hills, because we know we have alignment. And that's what our community is going to want. And so, for us, it's key. It goes hand in hand. And the good thing about it was we get to talk to the mayor about it. We get to talk to the city manager, and we get to make sure that we're still holding hands and aligned.
Great. We're getting about up to our limit on time, so I want to just end with one thing.
Okay.
If you had to come up with a slogan for LA or Beverly Hills or Southern California right now, what would it be?
Okay. All right.
We'll start with David on that one.
What a gentleman. I would say, in a slogan, greatest city in America.
There you go. All right.
I've always said, California is where all the dreamers come to pursue their dreams. And, you think about anybody who's never been to California, you ask them about California, it's all a dream. So I say California dreaming.
Yeah, that's nice.
There you go, California.
Your turn, buddy.
Look, for me, it's all about Beverly Hills. It's one Beverly Hills, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. So David went safe, Hana went sentimental, right? And you went local. So well done. Thank you all very much for your time today. It's just good conversation.